The tigress gave her cubs to this man. Then he did something unbelievable. In the dense forests of central USA, a rare and breathtaking story unfolded that left everyone in awe. A young wildlife photographer, Ravi, spent months in a tiger reserve documenting the lives of the majestic big cats. One day, while trekking alone deep in the jungle, he stumbled upon an unexpected sight: a tigress pacing nervously, her golden eyes locked on him. But she wasn't threatening. She was desperate. The tigress was accompanied by 3 tiny cubs, mewing softly. As they clung to her legs, something was wrong. Ravi kept his distance, respecting her space, but she didn't move away. Instead, she nudged her cubs forward, inching them closer to him. At first, Ravi thought she was warning him to stay away, but her behavior was anything but hostile. He noticed her limping. Her paw was injured, likely from a poacher's trap. She couldn't hunt properly and was visibly weak. The tigress seemed to understand that she couldn't care for her cubs in this condition, and astonishingly, she was entrusting them to him. Ravi was overwhelmed. He had spent years studying tigers, but this was unprecedented. Slowly and carefully, he crouched down and assessed the situation. The cubs were undernourished, but otherwise unharmed. The tigress stayed nearby, watching his every move, as if silently urging him to help. Ravi decided to act. He called the local wildlife rescue team, but knew it would take hours for them to arrive. In the meantime, he remembered carrying some supplies in his backpack: specialized protein supplements he used to bait small wildlife for photography. He mixed the supplements with water and offered it to the cubs. To his surprise, they drank eagerly, their tiny bodies energized almost immediately. But the story didn't end there. The tigress, too weak to move, collapsed under a tree. Ravi couldn't leave her behind. With the help of the rescue team, they carefully transported the tigress and her cubs to a nearby rehabilitation center. Over the next few weeks, veterinarians treated her injuries while Ravi remained by her side, ensuring the cubs received proper care. What happened next was nothing short of a miracle. As the tigress recovered, she began to trust Ravi completely. She allowed him to feed her cubs and even interact with them. Wildlife experts called it a once-in-a-lifetime bond between a human and a tiger family. Months passed and life moved on for Ravi, but the memory of the tigress and her cubs stayed vivid in his mind. The incident had drawn global attention, with conservationists praising Ravi's actions and calling for stricter measures to protect tigers in the wild. Yet, for Ravi, it wasn't about fame. It was about the bond he had shared with the tigress and her cubs. One day, while Ravi was back in the same forest reserve, he heard a familiar low growl echoing through the dense trees. His heart raced. Could it be her? Carefully, he followed the sound, his camera slung over his shoulder, ready for any encounter. As he approached a clearing, he froze in awe. There she was, the tigress, standing majestically with her 3 cubs, now nearly grown. Her golden eyes met his once again, but this time there was no desperation, only recognition. It was as if she had sought him out. What happened next left Ravi speechless. The tigress lay down and her cubs, curious and playful, approached him. Cautiously, Ravi stayed still, respecting their instincts, but to his astonishment, one of the cubs brushed against his leg, a gesture of trust that sent shivers down his spine. The tigress, as if satisfied with the reunion, rose and let out a roar that reverberated through the forest. It was a sound of triumph, a declaration that she and her cubs had not only survived, but thrived. Ravi watched as they disappeared into the jungle, leaving him with a sense of profound connection to the natural world. But the story didn't end there. Unbeknownst to Ravi, the tigress's trust had inspired local villagers who had previously feared and hunted tigers. They saw how Ravi's compassion had saved the tigress and her cubs, and this sparked a change. Communities began working with conservationists to protect tiger habitats, turning poachers into guardians of the forest. Ravi's bond with the tigress became a movement, a testament to the power of trust, compassion, and coexistence. And though he never saw her again, he knew she was out there, ruling her jungle kingdom, a queen in her own right, raising the next generation of tigers with the same fierce determination she had shown when she entrusted her cubs to him. Years passed, but Ravi's story of the tigress and her cubs grew into something far greater than he had ever imagined. Wildlife documentaries featured his tale. Children in schools learned about his courage and compassion, and the villagers who once saw tigers as enemies now treated them with respect and awe. Ravi had unknowingly become a symbol of hope for both humans and wildlife, learning to coexist. One day, while Ravi was working at his small wildlife rescue center, a place he had founded with the money raised from his newfound fame, he received a peculiar visitor. A young woman arrived holding a weathered notebook filled with sketches of tigers, including one that bore an uncanny resemblance to his tigress. She introduced herself as Dr. Amara, a wildlife biologist studying tiger migration patterns. Dr. Amara shared startling news. Satellite tracking had revealed an unusual movement in the forest corridors where Ravi's tigress once roamed. The tigress, now an elder, had expanded her territory far beyond the usual range, successfully reintroducing her cubs to distant parts of the jungle. What made this remarkable was that her lineage had thrived even in areas where tiger populations had been declining for decades. She didn't just survive, Dr. Amara said with a gleam of excitement in her eyes. She created an entirely new tiger population. Ravi's heart swelled with pride and awe. To think that a desperate mother who had once entrusted him with her cubs had now become the matriarch of a new generation of tigers was beyond anything he could have imagined. But there was more. Dr. Amara invited Ravi to join her on an expedition to study the tigress's descendants over the next few months. Ravi found himself back in the dense jungles, this time armed with scientific equipment instead of just a camera. Together, he and Amara tracked paw prints, set up camera traps, and recorded the roars of what they believed to be the tigress's grandchildren. One evening, as they reviewed footage by the campfire, a clip appeared on the screen that made Ravi's breath catch. There, in the glow of the night vision camera, stood a tiger with strikingly familiar markings. It wasn't just any tiger, it was her. The tigress, older, thinner, but still carrying the same commanding presence. And then the impossible happened. In the video, the tigress turned directly toward the camera and let out a low, resonant roar as if acknowledging Ravi's presence even from afar. "It's like she knows," Amara whispered, her voice filled with reverence. Ravi didn't say a word, but tears welled in his eyes. That roar was not just a sound, it was a message, a testament to the enduring bond between a man and a wild creature who had crossed paths at a moment of vulnerability and trust. As the years continued to pass, Ravi's efforts grew into a full-scale conservation initiative, preserving thousands of acres of forest and providing education to future generations about the importance of protecting wildlife. the Tigress became a legend, her story told in countless ways, books, films, and even songs. But for Ravi, it was never about the fame or recognition. Every time he heard the distant call of a tiger echoing through the forest, he smiled, knowing that somewhere out there, her legacy roared on. Because sometimes a single act of kindness can ripple through the wilderness, shaping destinies far beyond what the heart can see. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. For more content, please leave your comments and share your experiences. Thank you for being part of ZF Story Life community. See you soon.